All right, now that you have your scores, I'm going to use my power of theory to explain and predict what I'm seeing on a paper that I can't see. After doing this with many, many educators, what I have seen over time is that there is a wide variety on bosses that we look at. Some of our bosses will say that they're theory X, and others will say that they're theory Y. But as you get down to the part where you're looking at your own way of the way you like to be led, it's going to be theory Y. In fact, when we go throughout the semester and we talk about others and ourselves in terms of being theory X or theory Y, generally that boss that we had, that principal that we work for, that whoever that person of authority is, we see them as much more theory X. And I'm used to hearing comments like, well, when I become the team leader, I will be theory Y. And I have to warn you with a little piece of advice. We all see ourselves as more theory Y than the people that work for us. You see, if you say, you know what, we had to work extra time on this project so much that I'm going to let you decide some night next week you may leave work a little bit early, and you make that decision, and you think to yourself, oh my goodness, wasn't that a great theory Y thing that I did? I'm letting them choose whichever night so that it matched their schedule. I am appreciating them for what they did. If your followers buy into that and believe that's what's going on, then they also will say you're theory Y. But you will have a large, hopefully not too large, but you will have a large group in there that will say among each other, you know, this is transactional. You worked for me on this week, and so I'll give you back something next week. That, you know, you're rewarding for the punishment that you had of working extra long this week. And some of them will say, yeah, you kept us after school 2 hours to do this project, and you say we get to go early some night next week. That's a whole 10 minutes. I don't think that's really a fair transaction. Why? Because it's in the perception of the follower that you have to understand what's going on. We all think we are more benevolent and more sharing and caring and kind than those that we have to lead, because in many times we have to make a hard decision and we cannot make everybody happy in the situation. So we try to be theory Y, but sometimes we need to be theory X. And sometimes people actually ask you to be theory X. You know, you come in and say, they come in with a problem and you say, well, what do you think? And they become frustrated. They're like, I don't care what I think. Tell me what to do. You're getting the role of the leader. You take that responsibility. The buck stops with you. And sometimes you don't even want to be theory X, and you are pushed into that arena. So interesting theory to work with that kind of dissolves into and overlaps with the transactional transformational one. In transactional and transformational, there's a little bit different flavor, though, that makes it worth your time to do this reading and thinking about what a transactional and transformational leader is. But over time, it seems to, in most of our minds, meld together that transactional and X is the same type of leader. And it is, but sometimes one of those terms works better than the other because they aren't 100% equality of theory. Transactional, I think the flavor that is added is that there is this kind of I'll do for you so you will do for me. There's a little bit of a tone of manipulation with that. And there's also the idea that you're the standard bearer, you know, that you're sitting there holding the clipboard and checking things off. If things are going fine, you do not engage with what's going on. You're only going to go in and become a part of the action when you want things to change and move. So that a transactional leader works pretty well in times of calm, when there's not big stressful changes being made. Or they are also good in times of decision making, a crisis, something like that, where you have to come up with a decision. Transformational leaders sometimes have their problems working with transactional leaders. Here's Dilbert. He's got his transactional leader trying to help him get his work productive. Dilbert's kind of an interesting strip to watch to see the dynamics and play between the different characters in terms of leadership theory. And the pointy-headed boss, I think, is a good transactional leader model in that he isn't a mean old dictator type of thing, which is something what we can get in our mind, that it's the tyrant. Transactionals are not tyrants. They think they're doing what's right for their group just as much as transformationals do. They just have a little different view of how to get things done. So, looking at transformational leadership, these people are going to be good for times of change. And when are we not in times of change? They have a charismatic or trying to get people to buy in and work more with the relationships of the people that are involved than the transactional leader does. So Dilbert, when he becomes the leader, he leads from his style, which is much more transformational. Sometimes being a transformational among people that are transactional makes you seem weak or wimpy, that you are asking for their opinion when they need a strong yes, a no, maybe kind of answer. And so it's not 100% transformational is the place to be. However, if you continue to live in transactional, you will be treated that way as well, and that's all the more effort and buy-in that you'll get. Have a handout. On your handout, there's a page with all of this. I'm going to go through the pages quickly, so you're not going to be able to read it from the screen. You're going to need to read it from your handout. There's 3 things I'd like you to key in and see if you can find. Some of them jump right off the page at you. Transformational leaders deal from a place of vision. They're there to bring the company, the school, the team, the whatever, forward toward its mission. And they want to not go there by themselves, but they want to be able to articulate and implement so that the team is able to travel with them toward the vision. So look for that visionary piece. Also look for communication skills. Transformationals need to be able to communicate well so that the team and the group does go with them. A list of yes and no's and do's and don'ts and policies fits transactional. Transformational is going to have to do a lot more explaining of why and how to get people to go in the direction. And finally, the third thing you're going to want to look for in this list is action. That how do they deal with actions? It isn't a carrot and stick like a transformational. It's going to be much more of a different type of action that a transformational is going after. And yet it's tough. There's not one right way. There's not one best way. And a lot of times you don't know which way it is that's going to produce what you want. But you know what? Dilbert's boss usually picks the wrong way. And so what we're looking at this for is not to find the right way. Okay, don't go to do an Ironman, but what you're looking for is when you're sitting there at the desk and you don't know what to do, that you have a different way of looking at it. If you're normally transactional, maybe you need to be thinking about some transformational behaviors to move things if you're stuck. Same way, if you're transformational and things are becoming ambiguous, then maybe it's time to be a little more transactional. That's why we go through some of these theories, is so that we have more tools in our repertoire when it's time for us to make those decisions and take those actions. So to do this, we're going to now look at our own simulations that we've been writing. This time when you open it up, you're going to put in bold, highlight in bold, anything that you wrote that seems to you to be transactional, that seems to be the background of what it is that you did. And if it seems transformational, you'll put it into italics. You can see that even in my example, some of my things are the same things that I used for traits. Sometimes it'll be different. Some stories will lend themselves much more to one side of the equation than the other. So some stories will have much more transactional than transformational, or vice versa. And some situations call for that. So this is not judging you how you are in all situations. This is for you to sit and do a little analysis on how you reacted in this situation.